Good morning, beautiful people of the center. What do you call a bunch of Easter bunnies that are walking backwards? A receding hairline. I'm sorry, I'm just feeling a bit scrambled this morning. Why did the Easter bunny cross the road? His friends egged him on. Don't worry, he got over easy. Well, you know, the theme for the month is joy, right? And the healing power of laughter. And at the same time, the Easter story is a story of profound meaning. So I wanted to start off with opening our hearts to laughter so we could talk deep today. But first, let me thank all the people who brought calla lilies and our stage designer, William Abel, for making it beautiful. And just so you know, the prayer practitioner on duty, Sherry Corbett, this would be her 30th year consecutively for praying with us on Easter morning. Right? There you go. Well, you know, my friends, the idea that there is more to life than what we experience in our day-to-day existence has been important to us ever since we began thinking as a species. What am I? Who am I? Where was I before I was here? And where am I going when this human body completes its cycle? And how am I going to get through this, whatever it is currently that I'm going through? And throughout the ages, teachers have appeared and have addressed these questions in one way or the other, saying that we are more than what we appear to be. That our nature is not necessarily what we've been taught it is. And that the essence of our life is something more glorious than we can ever perceive using our sense perception. And that there is a power greater than we are, that we are somehow part of. And that we can use that power to do good, to make a difference in our own lives and in the lives of other people, and that this power is closer than close, and that we are in it, and it is in us. And the Easter story is the story of one such messenger who seemed to be one of those people who had a really deep, a profound understanding of that power, who seemed to have an experience of it, who seemed to be connected through it to everything and everyone, and wanted everyone else to have the same awareness and the same experience, so that they could use the same power to face the bumps in the road of our life journey. Writing about Jesus of Nazareth, our founder Ernest Holmes said, his whole teaching was that what he did, others could do. He located God and the kingdom of heaven within himself. He had plunged beneath the material surface of creation and found its spiritual cause. This cause he called God. He called it his Father. He called it his power. He called it the kingdom of heaven. And what makes the Easter story so truly amazing for me is that even with all of this clarity, Jesus still struggled with being human and everything that goes with being human, just like every one of us does now and then. Last week was Palm Sunday, and it's the day in his story when he was hailed as king, as the leader, as the new hope, the savior. It is a new time of public recognition in his story. You might say it's the part of the story where everything is going really, really well. But as the way of stories, one day is the center of hope, and then a few days later he's betrayed by a close friend and arrested through a trumped-up charge of inciting political unrest, and then murdered brutally by a corrupt system. And if we step back from the details of that particular story, we see this is not an altogether unfamiliar cycle for us. This is the replaying of the age-old circle of drama that is the human story. Over and over. It begins, it starts. Then it gets good. Then it gets challenged. Then it all starts to crumble and dissolve, and then it ends. And then it returns. But it's changed now. And it's not like it used to be. The details and the characters change from culture to culture and from time to time and from religion to religion. And yet there is something deeply familiar about it all to us because it is something that we struggle through over and over and over again. It is the journey of deep transformation. And by now you'd think we'd know the routine. You'd think we'd be more peaceful with the process. You'd think we'd be more patient with the moments of betrayal and more forgiving and less reactive to the things that go bump, bump, bumpity, bump, bump, bump. And more confident in knowing that there is life after life. However, the nature of this journey of transformation is such that it is disorienting. And it is often the case in our moments of deepest transformation, highest stress, that we forget everything we've ever known temporarily, right at the moment when we would need it the most. Which is why I find that the words Jesus spoke just before his death so poignant when he said, "Father, why hast thou forsaken me?" Because it reminds me of how in those moments of extreme challenge, there is some part of me that still sometimes holds on to the idea that there is something else controlling me. In the Science of Mind magazine, Mark Anthony Lord, who came and spoke here, he wrote about this, and he said, "We must free ourselves completely from any and every belief that there is any power outside of us. I believe Jesus knew there was no power outside of him, yet in the midst of fully surrendering to this truth, he demonstrated that fear can have a voice." Oh, what a powerful reminder that it's okay to feel forsaken. That it's okay to feel frightened. You might say the most advanced, the best among us do it. And doesn't mean that you've lost your faith. It just means, well, it feels like you have. And it will continue to feel like you have all the while that you are inside of the transforming event. And how wonderful it is to remember that learning to speak what you're afraid of is exactly how you don't give it power. That it is indeed when we suppress the fear voice that it percolates inside and festers and becomes larger than it deserves to be. That's exactly what the power of vulnerability is, learning how to speak what we are afraid of. If you're not familiar with the Easter story, let me tell you that it seems, as you read this story, you'll find that Jesus of Nazareth knew exactly what was happening, and he knew exactly what was going to happen in the whole story. He was deeply tuned to his intuition. He called it the kingdom of heaven within. He knew. He seemed to know that everything was going to come crashing down on him and that he had simply no power to do anything about it. And even though there was clearly going to be a glorious after in the story, because he could see that, even though he knew that, still at the same time he did not necessarily want to go through the pain of betrayal, the pain of being unjustly misrepresented in public, the pain of being killed. After his Last Supper, he went out into the garden with some friends, and in the poignant words of Luke's gospel, it says, he went a little way beyond them, his students, and he fell on his face and he prayed, saying, "My Father, if it is possible, take this cup away from me." You know, when I was younger and first studying spirituality, I was really frustrated by this part of the story because, I just wanted him to, toughen up and take control of the situation, And then I found metaphysics and the Center for Spiritual Living, and I learned how to pray affirmatively and take control and manage the world of effects around me, and which mistakenly led me to the thought that I had full control of the whole universe. Right? So my question in my naivete for Jesus persisted. Why don't you just pray it away? Come on, Jesus. Say a few affirmations. Change your thinking, Jesus. It'll change your life. Right? Wrong. You see, because now, and perhaps you know too, after journeying through this world and going through the process of transformation a few times, you realize with humility that sometimes in life you and I simply cannot pray everything away, because sometimes the thing we're trying to pray away, is the way. And so there is a stepping into it that has to take place. For example, if you've ever been in a relationship that should end, but you want to stay in it, but you can't because it's destroying everybody, then you know something of this feeling. It's got to go, but you don't want it to, and you know both sides of it. So back to the garden scene. See, Jesus had just completed Passover dinner. That's what he was doing. And he took two of his students, Peter and James, with him and said, "Come with me into the garden and stay with me while I pray." And then he began, as it says in the gospel, to become deeply distressed and troubled. And he said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death." And that's when he fell to the ground on his face and said, and I paraphrase it in a different way now, "Oh God, I know that all things are possible. And if it is possible, I would prefer not to have to go through this. And yet, at the same time, I know it's got to go the way it's got to go." And in that, he's telling the story, the beautiful, poignant story of how holding on to that which must go is a painful thing. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, writing about it, said it like this: we love the idea of resurrection, but it is very difficult for us to unwrap the grave clothes of our previous experience. We cannot carry along today the corpse of yesterday and expect a change to take place. You see, in a way, we've been set up. Because for thousands of years now, particularly in the Western world, everybody seems to be waiting for a savior to return. So there is a mental equivalent of waiting. A mental equivalent means the normal concept in our consciousness of waiting for someone, waiting for something that will come along that will complete us. And that shows up in an endless searching searching for the next best teaching, searching for the next best teacher, searching for the next charismatic leader, political, or the lucky break, or the perfect person. There's something that will disconnect us, free us from our past, and give us life and give it to us abundantly. So it shows up as waiting for better weather, waiting for better times, waiting for better opportunities, waiting for that special something, and we wait in vain. For it is already here. The afterlife is now, and now, and now. There is another poignant moment in his story when his opponents are questioning his authority. And he quotes their own scriptures back to them, saying, "Know ye not that ye are gods?" Saying to them, in other words, don't you get it? You are made out of the infinite. Don't you get it? You are from God's stuff. Don't you get it? You are from the eternal. Don't you get it? That your body and your life and your mind, you are what the world is waiting for to return. But not how you used to be a moment ago. Not even in the form of the best you of your past. No, to return to life in the form of you that knows that you are more than you appear to be. That the essence of your life is something more glorious than what can ever be perceived by your sense organs. That there is a power greater than you, and that you are part of it, and that you can use this power to make a difference in your life and in the lives of others. And that this power is closer than close to you, and you are in it, and it is in you. And to me, that's what makes the Easter story so amazing, because it reminds me that the journey from then to then can be frightening and can be tender, because we cannot remain how we used to be in order to change into what we are. You know, when Jesus did come back in the story, some of his friends didn't even recognize him, because just like the spring flowers, the new spring flowers are so amazing. They appear to be the same, yet they are not. They're completely different. The previous hymn had died away, and the new version was glorious to the point of not being recognizable as the old. I think about that when I meet up with friends of mine from South Africa that I haven't seen for 20 years, and it's difficult for us to get back into connecting because we are the same, yet we are completely different. And as much as I love this spring, I cannot will it to appear exactly like this again next time. And that's the sweet tenderness of our human heart's craving. We want the transformation, as long as nothing has to change getting there. So, you know, there's the message of the human heart. I want everyone to hold their place. I want no mind to change. I want all hearts to be constant. I want it. And don't you know, at some point, we have to let go. As did Jesus of Nazareth, who just before he took his last breath said, "Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit." Surrender. One of the most powerful spiritual practices I know of, and it seems to be the most important spiritual practice when it comes to this journey of transformation. It seems to be the thing. You know, when we travel from what was to what is to be, surrender is up. And it's an act that requires courage, but not force. Because it is characterized by this feeling tone of letting go, yielding, or more accurately, letting be. We are amazing beings. We have the capacity to dream. We can see the greater yet to be. The challenge, it appears, is how to enter into it. And I think Easter is a wonderful opportunity to be reminded that sometimes it means putting down the things that prevent us from taking that step, boldly or shakingly, into the greater yet to be. To feel the fear and acknowledge it as an ordinary part of the rich experience of being human. And to step anyway into the unknown. For my own use, I have made an adaptation of Reinhold Niebuhr's famous prayer for times when transformation seems frightening or when I just don't want to go. And it goes like this. Spirit's wisdom within me gives me the peace to embrace the things I cannot control. And Spirit's strength within me gives me the courage to change the things I can, as well as the wisdom to know the difference between the two. And so I live one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, seeing hardships for what they are. I take this world as it is, instead of insisting it be any different, trusting that goodness has made all things perfectly. I surrender to what is, so that I may live in peace in this world and the next. And I invite you now to take a breath with me and to exhale into a moment of quiet contemplation. And let each one of us take a moment to acknowledge that power which is the cause, the first cause, the creator, from which all creation arises, that which is the eternal presence that is inside, outside, above and below, in and through all things. And with whatever words we use to describe it and name it, today also we are acknowledging it in the form of eternal joy, that which is expressing itself in us and as us, as our lives, so that we may in this moment feel our kinship with it and be reminded of its ever-renewing power in us, how it in us has stayed the same through change upon change upon change. And as we call it forward now into expression, it has the effect of causing us to see clearly, to understand deeply, to act wisely, to speak kindly, and every other good thing and more beyond that, so that we become channels for its expression. We become vehicles for the expansion of human compassion and love, and we make our contribution to a world that works for everyone. In deepest gratitude for this transformation in consciousness that is taking place, and acknowledging the spiritual laws that govern the universe that even now are responding to this, our thought of prayer, I do give thanks, and I let it be, and so it is.